and we've been friends for many years, but she's also the founding partner of TESOL Leadership Consultancy. And they focus a lot on business storytelling, future-ready skills, behavior attitudes, building the future, right? Building future generations, mindset transformations. And she's worked for many years in the finance field, and now she's working on these transformation projects. So she understands where we come from, what we need in organizations, what we need. She has 2 children, so she understands what kind of skills we as parents also need. She's worked across Hong Kong, Middle East, and India, and is known for cultivating and maintaining mutually beneficial business alliances, deepening client engagement, relationship building, community building, all that which is really important, and things she helps leaders and teams use the organic power of stories contact to bring humanity to the workplace. She's worked in various functions and hence uses all her experience to bring this. One of this, I mean, we've been talking about building ourselves as a brand building, and this is something which is really close to her heart. She's very passionate about this and entrepreneurship, and she works ecosystem, especially women, during the course of transition across locations and careers. She's actually based out of Hong Kong, so she is a few hours ahead of where we are. And thank you so much for coming, spending a Saturday evening talking to us on this. She has a bachelor degrees in commerce. She's an ICWA, an MBA from IIM Calcutta. And she spearheads projects in story-powered leadership, change management, business transformation, leadership development skills, and many others. So let me not keep her this thing. Over to you, Saundari, to take this forward.
Thank you so much, Sharmila. I think I'm so happy and comfortable to be with friends. And what an amazing organization, Ficci Flow. So I'm personally also excited to be interacting with the members. And I know a lot of moving parts come together like clockwork to make these things happen. So special thanks to you, Sharmila, and the team that's put it together.
Yeah,
so
correct. So, okay, before we go, I just wanted to say, so a lot of the women who are there, we are actually running a mentorship program in Ficci Flow, where we are actually helping a lot of entrepreneurs come up, build, become bigger, and things like that. And a lot of this times we've been talking about hard skills, but we realize that soft skills are as important. And when you are a woman entrepreneur, a single entrepreneur, it's yourself as important as, building your brand. That's what I think. You are the, you know better. So let's talk on this.
Yeah? I think we're all in that journey. So I think we're all evolving, figuring it out, and doing what is seeming right to us. So I just want to kick off by asking if you've heard of this term called Batman effect. And if you have, anybody can just unmute and speak. It's much easier to interact that way rather than putting on chat.
Sure.
Has anybody heard of Batman effect?
No.
Okay.
I
Basically,
don't think so.
it's like taking on a persona when you're not feeling very comfortable. So I believe I read this in a BBC article which came last year. Beyonce, before she started off her concert life in 2005, she used to feel really nervous and anxious to get on stage. So she created this persona and she called it Sasha Fierce. And she would tell herself, Sasha Fierce is going to perform, Sasha Fierce is going to dance. And that sort of took some of the nervousness away. And as I was looking at, Ficci Flow, Startup Caravan, I was just thinking, okay, what name can I take today to come here and speak with all of you? I will stick with, now that I've been introduced as Saundari, I'll stick with that. But thank you so much. And let's jump right in. And I just want to take your views on what do you think is personal branding. When you think of the word personal branding, what comes to your mind? And if you can either go to menti.com and type this code in, or scan it, the QR code on your phone, it will give you four options, and you can rate the options on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being strongly disagree and 10 being agree. So once you've done the scanning or put the code down, I will then change it to the Menti screen so that we can see what's happening on that. Okay, I'm going to stop now and take it to that screen, if that's okay.
I haven't done it. Can you just show the code again, please?
This code will just come back again. Just give me a second. I'll just
Sure.
take it to the screen. That screen also has the code. Can you see that now? The code? It's 4369826. So do you think personal branding is for leaders? Do you agree, disagree? Do you think it feels like self-promotion? And I can see a lot of us feel that bit of discomfort. So to Sarika, to what you were saying before. Does it dilute the company brand? I've heard this from a lot of people that are you putting yourself first, or is it the company, and what should be more popular? And definitely a big dilemma when you're an entrepreneur, which doesn't have a large entity. Is it about grooming? And I can see, a lot of people think it is about grooming. I'm just going to give it a few more seconds to just, ensure everybody's getting this in.
I think some more people are coming in.
It's not very clear. Can't read it properly.
It's
Can I read it out for you?
4369. Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you?
4369826.
That is showing.
Okay.
Options are also showing.
Okay,
But
can
it's very faint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Let me see.
okay.
Let me
I
just
have
make it a little
my
bit bigger.
screen behind. Okay.
It's
Personal
better?
branding is for leaders. Personal branding feels like self-promotion. Yeah. Personal branding diluting the companies.
As in, is the person bigger or is the company bigger, kind of a thing?
Yeah.
And personal branding means looking after grooming and all that.
I think so.
So I think definitely there is that feeling of, it is a little bit of self-promotion. So there's that discomfort that comes with that. I'm very happy to see that the feeling is not that it dilutes the company brand. Some people think so, 3.2. And it's definitely a lot on the grooming, which is, just to set the tone right. It's not something that I particularly do or run sessions on. So if you were looking for it, I hope you'll get something else from this session, which is equally interesting. I think it should be okay to move on. Most people should have answered by now. Yeah, okay.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. I'm going to take it back to the... So, it's all this and more. And like I said, I'm going to look at some parts of it. So maybe not some other parts. So while I talk about it, for me, personal branding denotes gap. And let me tell you why it reminds me of gap. So as a college student in 1988, so I'm dating myself there, studying at Ethraj College in Madras, what was Madras then and not Chennai. So one day when I was in the second year, our head of the department, Dr. Nirmala Prasad, she walks into our classroom and she says, "Oh, Madras Management Association is putting through a conference and who'd like to volunteer?" So I quickly put my hand up. And the conference was going to be in this hotel called Adayar Park Sheraton, which was a big 5-star hotel. It's now, I think, Crown Plaza. And I had never stepped into a 5-star hotel before. So, I was very excited. I had like stars in my eyes, but my heart was in my mouth. And the job was very basic. It was not that I was speaking to anybody, or it was not that I was, going to be in a panel or anything like that. it was just to ensure the registration desk was handled. I needed to ensure people got their notepads and pens and their bottles of water as it used to be at that time. But what it gave me was a ringside view to hearing some of the industry bigwigs. And I remember there was this lady CFO who had just joined her company at that time. The company is called Tractors and Farm Equipments, TAFE, Malika Srinivasan. And I don't remember the exact words, so I'm going to paraphrase it. She basically said that you don't need love of money to run a business. You need to have a dream to build an institution. And that left a big mark on me, really starry-eyed looking at her. And it also made me aspire to think I could get on the cover of a business magazine. So we keep talking about gender pay gap a lot, but what is not talked so much is the network gap. If we have a really weak network, we are missing out on a lot of opportunities. We may have the right skills, but not necessarily the right connections. And that is a big problem. So I think of personal branding as something that will help us overcome that gap. And organizations like The Flow really present opportunities for women to come together and bridge that gap. I just want to ask you, so when we say personal branding, if I ask you about a brand, what is a brand that stands out for you? Any brand that you think of that stands out for you? Either unmute and say it or please put it on chat, whichever way.
Pepsi.
Pepsi.
Coke.
And okay.
Amul.
Amul. And why?
We've grown up with these brands. We have known them since school days, college days.
Yes. Tata's.
They've been there all the time, all around us. They've been at the retail stores. You see it all the time on the shelves.
Absolutely.
Ads are, of course, Amul picked up the ads so much during the pandemic.
And living outside India, and living outside India, I still go and pick up Amul butter at the nearest Indian store. So totally with you, Dolly, on that. And Shazia says Tata for trust. Nischala says SRK, AB, and Priyanka Chopra. And why do you say, okay, Apple, Google, WhatsApp? Nischala, can you also say why those brands are standing out for you?
I think they're somewhere iconic. They are distinct. They are different, and I personally admire all these just for the ability to sort of create mind share at scale, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
because just the reach that they all of them have, and it's like multi-generational. It is global. Everybody knows them, right? Which is not easy. So that is the reason I personally kind of admire
all
this,
of them,
what I
and
put,
the wide range from SRK to WhatsApp. Absolutely. Really like that.
SRK.
And that's so true, right? I think if you have to actually look at it from a brand perspective, what these brands have done is they've got the image right. Their messaging is very clear, like we were talking about the Amul ads, and they also appeal to the right audience. Like you were saying about Apple being really cross-generational, right? My mother uses a Mac and she's 81. So, and I have my son who's 18 who's also using the Mac. So it's really cross-generational. So something that defines these brands, something that draws our attention and make them memorable. And companies spend a lot of money to get that kind of attention, right? So I want to highlight what Jeff Bezos said is a brand. And he says it's what people tell or talk about you when you're not in the room.
This is what I heard.
And that's sort of symbolic of what it means to actually have the right brand. And I want to talk about 3 brands, as I call them, and then we will go into discussing about our own brand. So the first brand that I want to talk about is Mumbai Police's Twitter account. It's a brand by itself. And you would have seen this over the last few years, the way it has made an iconic change. And what they have tried to do is really look at branding in a very different way. They have a 5 million followers on Twitter. They joined Twitter only in December 2015. And when the commissioner of police, Ahmad Javed, and Deven Bharti, who was a joint commissioner, when they said, we want to look at some way in which we can make ourselves popular without saying, thou shan't do this, we are watching you, very preachy kind of a way. They wanted to go beyond that. And they got hold of this really small agency called Trivon, which was started by this guy, El Subu. And they said, let's look at these posts in a way to connect. And one of the really nice ones that I liked is when Elon Musk tweeted about saying, use Signal. Mumbai police tweeted back that, saying, especially the ones on the street. And in a way, not only are these clever, but they're also coming very genuine to help the individuals instead of directing them. So the whole branding of, so if I ask you now, Mumbai Police's Twitter account, just like how you send, distinct, different, mind share at scale, multi-generational for the other brands, what would be the 1 or 2 words that you will describe Mumbai Police's Twitter account as? I mean, just again, just unmute and say, what would be that word that describes it?
I would say unexpected and bold, because honestly, I would not expect them to even have a Twitter presence, let alone doing something over there.
Yeah. And they have 5 million followers on Twitter, no less. I mean, of course, India is a large country, but still on Twitter, we all know how it's difficult to get mind space of people. That's really nicely said. Any other words that come out about?
I think transparency.
Transparency.
Very witty.
Very witty, absolutely. I think they've really trended, the Da Vinci Code of Safety. They did a thing on Game of Thrones, got it, they said, and they've really tried to keep up with the trends as well. So that's been really, really nice. Let's look at another brand. And again, I really want it to be a little bit interactive, so I'll keep asking you, so be prepared. I'm sure a lot of you recognize her. So for those you who recognize her, can you tell me who she is? And thanks, Sonali, Shilpa, quirky, friendly for the Mumbai Police, especially the Ganesh Chaturthi one, Mohanpriya. Yes, I loved it. Sarika. The hula hoop girl, yes, Shweta. Who remembers her name? Sonia, you would know? So her name is...
no, sadly.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name.
Yeah, her name is Ishna Kutti. She's a 21-year-old. Yes, Genda Pul Mohanpriya. We are all on the trends here. I love this. So she's a 21-year-old hula hoop dancer based out of Delhi who's popularizing hoop dancing. And she's doing it with a sari on. So she did a thing on Sari Flow. She did a YouTube video. Genda Pool was a song that she did the song on. And that song had almost 300,000 views on YouTube. And I'm not using the metrics to say that, you must have clicks and likes and shares. I'm just not into those. So again, this is not a Google Analytics workshop, but this is just to say somebody's ability to take a trend and break through the information and the noise overload that we have. And that's what she did. And it took her about, she was 10 years old when she started dancing. So actually it took her 10 years to build that, to move from just doing it in a bedroom to doing it as a flow art with thousands of followers. But what was amazing is that her hula hoop classes during COVID time, she had to take it online. And so far it was all physical classes. So she created this whole, campaign against people signing up for her classes. And while they were doing it, she took the matter a little bit offline, and she called every one of her participants who signed up for her class and found out what they liked, what they didn't, gave them the thought process and all that. So she literally made what companies are struggling with about onboarding. She did that brilliantly on a online to offline fashion. It was an online course, but she maintained those touch points offline, and I think that is something. So if I were to ask, and please go and check out her YouTube video, add to the followership. It's brilliant, the whole dance sequence, and to do it in a sari, obviously even more brilliant. So if I were to ask you, Ishna Kuti as a brand, what are some of the names that what are some of the brand features that are coming out to you?
So if I may just ask a question, if it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
See, like, I didn't know her name, but I've loved her videos. Right now that you're saying the name, I just realized like I don't even know her name, right? Which is, I feel, I don't know. I feel it's a missed brand opportunity, So I don't know if she was very conscious to like say that, like Sharmila said, right? Like, not, just kind of shy away from her identity being the brand. I agree, she has a larger purpose, and it's about the dance and the art, and maybe she's also looking at building her own business, but like she's just unknown. At least I didn't know her, right? So
Right.
I'm just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because she's already having a follower base, her business is growing, she's doing a customer acquisition. I didn't know this. It's a great way to do customer acquisition, but she remains unknown, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know,
no,
is
it's a
that
great point. No, it's a
Yeah.
great point, Nishila. I think one of the things that happened with her in her specific case, just to the background, is that she recorded the video without expecting it to go viral. So she did it like a home video kind of a thing, pretty much like how the lady who knit Bernie's gloves did. She didn't intend it to become a brand. And then Bernie was hashtagging everywhere, So that's how it had started. So her video, which got most watched, of course, there's a constraint there because she didn't intend to put her name out or anything like that. But it is, I'm totally with you. I mean, this is the background to it, but I totally get what you mean about, it seems like if she had, I think, maybe launched it as a video that she meant to do, maybe she would have done it differently. And Sarika, thanks. Yeah, bold, rebellious, versatile. And Shweta, I mean, this is my take on it, knowing that this is how the video went viral, part of it. So
I think another thing that stands out to me for Ishna Kutti, and to be fair, I also agree with Nishchala. I had completely forgotten her name. I just remembered her as the hula hoop girl. Was the fact that like when you typically think of things like hula hoop, you don't really imagine, you don't associate it with the sari at all. Right. And so what she basically did was break those, I guess, connections in our head that you could associate, like you could do a hula hoop wearing whatever you want. And she did it with like shoes and everything. Which is an antithesis of every single image that comes into mind when I think of a hula hoop or somebody who's doing a hula hoop, right?
That's a great point. No, that's absolutely great point. In fact, there were so many of these. There are these sari groups. All the sari groups were trending videos.
Correct.
And I think it is more than any other video. It was one video which came to you in every WhatsApp group you were in. And you were saying, oh my God, again, kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, a great point, Shweta. It's like breaking barriers and biases, which is why it appeals to all of us as well.
And I think it was because she did this weird, I think, a very unconventional combination, right? It was very clutter breaking also. Like you would otherwise have these cat videos or something else, which anyways everyone watches. So this was completely new, unexpected, which is what it stood out for.
No, fantastic. So unexpected, new, engaging, bold, rebellious, breaking barriers. That's what she stands for, right? As a brand. Let's look at a last quick one, which is this lady. Again, I just want to check if anybody has seen her. She was featured by BBC just a few days back, but has anybody seen her? And I think you can sort of figure out the glimpse of the sport that she plays by looking at the people in the background. Okay, so this is Sarika Kale, and she's the Indian women's team's ex-captain for Kho-Kho. She started, playing Kho-Kho when she was 10 years old. And it is a popular sport in school. I've played Coco when I was in school, but for her, what was different was that her mother was a house help. Her grandmom before her mother was a house help. Nobody in her house had ever gone and obviously played sports. Her father was dead set against her doing it, especially saying mulgis don't wear shorts and go out and play. What the hell? And you're you're really insulting the family. You're bringing a bad name to the family. And please explain. Imagine all this in Marathi. My Marathi is no good. And also telling her that, he just stopped talking to her for 2 years. But it was her grandmom who said, I don't want her to do the same thing that I have done and her mother is stuck with. I want her to have a different life. So her grandmom actually begged the coach who was coaching the whole group at that time and said, please convince her not to give up. It doesn't matter if the dad is not speaking to her. And she went on and played with the support of her mother and grandmother. She continued and she captained the Indian women's team. They won many championships and she won one of the highest sporting honors. And looking back, she's glad she chose Coco, and we are glad that there is such a role model. So again, if Sarika Kale is a brand, what does she represent? Not somebody who has a lot of money and background and backing and, what is she as a brand? So again, unmute or put it on the chat. Inspiration, grit,
determination,
wanting to stand out, wanting to do something different.
Absolutely. It's doing something
and that's
different.
why getting the attention.
Passion.
Not the normal routine.
Absolutely. All of that and more, right? You will really think sports is it now. You want your daughters, and I'm saying daughters because daughters to get into sports. And I know like Sonia's on this call and her daughters play a lot of sports, and that's been such a big high to know that women in sports is a big thing to really break some of the boundaries. So again, in a different way from Ishna Kuti, but breaking boundaries with sports as well. So just moving on, just want to say that just like all these people, we have a brand image and we don't even sometimes know about it. Somebody thinks of us as kind, somebody says you're knowledgeable, somebody calls you purpose driven, somebody says you're competitive, somebody says you're considerate, somebody says you're poor in time management, somebody calls you argumentative. And sometimes some of these names and titles does more harm than good. But hearing about ourselves from another person's perspective gives us an idea, gives us a feeling, oh, is this the image I'm leaving behind? So we think we have I have a great work history, I have a great CV, I have great experience, but our audience may not know that we are even there. And to misquote in the group where there are some, English lit people, if a leaf falls in the forest and there is nobody around to hear it, does it even make a sound? So if you're there and nobody even knows that you're there, are you there? And I'm not making it an existential crisis or question like that. So just saying that it's a brand thought that I want to leave you with. So you are the owner of your own brand. So what are your features? What is your target audience? And what features do you want to highlight to which audience? So it could be your employers, it could be your business, your clients, customers, it could be your friends. So what are the marketing efforts that you're doing to really highlight yourself? So one obvious output that everybody generates is a CV or a biodata. What about blog posts? What about your social media profile? What you wear? And I don't want to emphasize on that in terms of it's not it's not wearing the happiest of clothes or anything like that, but it does leave an image, what you wear. What's your body language? What you say? and how you say it. All these leaves images in people's head, and you are the only one who can manage it. So you are your brand owner as much as anything else. And just like, gaming, I have I have kids who are constantly gaming, so it's on my head. Just like a game controller, you can actually navigate your personal brand to take it to the outcome that you want seen, to give yourself the right image. And I just want to stop here for a minute, and I'm going to be, putting myself on a spot here. When I told you about, Etraj College and that conference that I went to, what is the image of me as a person that you had in your mind? A lot of you I haven't met before, and I'm hoping it's a safe group. So we'll censor the chat, Sharmila, if anything really bad comes. Or you can unmute and say
I'm
it.
sure it will not happen.
What did you think of me as a person? And this is that uncomfortable moment where you wait. Shy and demure, yet eager to explore. Thanks. Sincere.
Super one.
Observant. Just a couple more. I won't trouble you guys more than that. Talkative. Oh God, Amrita. Ambitious. No, thank you so much. A little girl with a lot of dreams. Thanks, Meenal. Ambition to have a cover. Absolutely. Thank you so, so much. Coming from a conservative place, but eager to explore new boundaries, resourceful, dreamer. So let's just flip it for 1 minute and say, instead of telling about that incident, I tell you that I am shy and demure. I'm ambitious. I'm eager to explore. I'm sincere. I'm talkative. I'm resourceful. I'm traditional. If I had said all that without narrating the incident, or I come from a conservative place, but I'm eager to explore new boundaries, I'm a dreamer, I'm ambitious. If I'd said all that, what image would you have had of me? This is when I get ready for the big bats, and the thick skin helps. Self-aware. Thanks, Nishala. Nishala, like I'm gonna, next time I have any doubts, self-doubts, I'm gonna call you. Blatant and outspoken. Thanks. Someone who can't stop describing herself. Absolutely. It's I mean, I won't even wait for any more. It's absolutely pompous, right? I can't bear to hear myself, forget others to say anything. So I can't bear my own thoughts. So it is something really, really hard. So when we are, talking about ourselves, one, we need to define who we are as a brand. What do we want to know for? So I'm going to help you do this exercise the other way around. So pick out 3 adjectives that you want others to think of you as. How do you want to be perceived? And use them to shape the way you want people to think of you. So the only caveats for these 3 adjectives is they should be true, it should be you, and it should be of something, because we are talking about personal branding at work of ourselves to use it. It should be of something that is value for you, your business, or your organization. And this, you don't need to put it on the chat. You can, thanks, Jesh, open, frank, transparent. You can just write it. This is notes to yourself. Think of the 3 words that you want people to think of you as. Doubt what I want to be, or what I am as of today. What you want to be. Thanks, Mona, for asking it. What you want to be. So let's say, I want to be this amazingly networked person. And I think today on a scale of 1 to 10, I will just get to that in a minute once you've written your 3 words, Mona. Great question.
So the second point as to value for the organization. So are we linking it to our organization or are we trying to keep it separate? Right now, I'm completely interlinked, but I think that's where the struggle is.
Yeah. If it depends on what you want to build, I just left it open in case there are people who don't want to link it to organization or who are doing their own thing so just to make it open for everybody. So what is it that you want to create? Authentic leader, inspiring storyteller, polymath. I love that. So once you've listed these 3 adjectives, we will go to the now part now. So take a scale of 1 to 5 and plot yourself where you are on that scale right now. So just for example, if you want to be an inspiring storyteller, are you at 5? Are you at 2? Are you at 3? Where are you now? And that is the work that you will need to do to look at what do I need to do now to bridge that gap and move forward. Persistent, passion for my profession, motivator. Lovely.
That's what I'm doing. I like to impart whatever knowledge and experience I've had to others.
Lovely.
That's my profession, training.
Great. Interesting, enthusiast, and seeker. So just think of where you are in this spectrum of 1 to 5 for each of the attributes that you want to be known for. And just grade yourself and then think through what are the steps you need to take to get yourself there. And while we do that, and then working backward, I think everybody needs to be a storyteller obviously we can't go and say, I'm interesting, I'm enthusiastic, and I'm a seeker. So find out situations where you're getting to showcase that and use those as examples. So it is a work that you have to do with yourself for yourself. Teacher, compassionate, negotiator. Wow, I like that combination. Go-getter, passionate, team player. So I'm going to let you do your own rating and figure it out because it is an individual journey and it is what you feel most comfortable doing. So I don't want to really put, but I do want to leave you with some of the points which can help you structure that, which is defining your expertise and building your skills in that domain. For instance, and I'll just leave the points there, and I just want to link up all these points with my own journey. I used to work with Unilever and then with ANZ, and then I took a long career break and moved into creating this organization where we help leaders craft their narratives to solve problems. Now that was a big flip. So it was earlier easier, obviously, to go and say, I work with Unilever, people got it. Or I'm with ANZ, people got it. When you go and tell somebody something different, new about an organization, and that's the transition conversation, when you're reinventing yourself, how do you do that? So really looking at crafting your narrative for that point, looking at, okay, how do I look at it in terms of stages in my life? How do I manage my energy ebbs and flows? And this is true for women and men who was on the call. It's not just a women thing, right? All of us need to manage our energies at various times in life. How do you create your pitch, your narrative, to go and be able to introduce yourself differently? So instead of saying what you do for a living, can you talk about one time where you made a real difference at work and use that as your guiding thing to showcase you? So what I started doing for especially storytelling, business storytelling, everyone I met, every interview, every talk, I talked about it. We help leaders to use their voice. We harness the power of stories in a business context. So to just set it apart from, I'm not a drama teacher, so I'm not teaching dramatics. I'm also not making you a better storyteller like J.K. Rowling. So I really had to carve a niche. How is it in a business context? So really talking a lot about it. And just kept doing it so much that every time people started seeing any storytelling article or anything on storytelling, they would start tagging me. They would forward articles to me. So without having to create a lot of work around it, I started getting an inflow of information. And there are lots of groups which help us do that as well, right? And I can see a lot of friends in this call from another group that we are part of, and that is our safe space to really scope out all the information and get the details. And once they know that you're looking for it, as Rumi says, what you seek shall find you, kind of a thing, it keeps coming. And I think so nobody is an expert, but you keep getting information and you keep refining it. So really then developing a narrative and cutting out the jargon, that was our other thing. So we had a couple of things that we were very passionate about. No jargons. Communication is simple. Just tell it as it is. So no big words. So you don't need to, like in an organization speak, say, we will, hardwire your operating system to be fully innovative and reintegrated back into, okay, I've lost myself somewhere in the conversation. But really keep it simple and say it as it is. It happened to you. It is an incident that happened to you. It's not complex. So don't make it complex. So we did the focus on simple, complex to simple. And we said that in a business context, you can't really say, I'll tell you a story. Imagine people are at work and they're very busy, deadlines to meet, and you go up to them and say, hey, let me tell you a story. The most polite response at that time will be, okay, later. And all the other swear words will come before that. So we said, this is our focus and this is what we want to really highlight. And, so we really came up with our niche conversation on cutting out the jargon. Points of difference. And, all of us love Jacinta Ardern. And she talks about the whole authenticity piece, because you can only be yourself. Everyone else is taken. And she says one of the criticisms that she has faced all the years is that, oh, you're not aggressive enough, or you're not assertive enough. And she says, maybe it's because I'm empathetic, but people have led to think that that means I'm weak. And I totally rebel against it. I refuse to believe that you can't be both compassionate and strong. So how do you create, if somebody said, they wanted to really be on that motivational speech, Dolly, you were talking. So this is something that obviously, really resonates with us on that. Having a consistent image across whatever platform you are. I know like, Manimala and Meenal and all are in a lot of different platforms, and I can't see all the names because I've got the presentation also on. But I think it's consistency. Choose your medium. I am a digital migrant, as you could have found out with my college date. Obviously, I'm not a digital native. I'm a digital migrant. I love social media, but I find that I can only be on certain spaces. So during, again, one of these things during COVID, when you reassess life and let me think what life's purpose is about, I decided to get onto Twitter. And I had no clue how that medium works. I was comfortable with Facebook. I was comfortable with LinkedIn. And so I called my nephew, who's got a huge Twitter page and he's got 1 million followers on it. I called him and said, okay, 1 hour, you'll give me time. We'll get onto Zoom and you'll give me a crash course. Tell me what are the do's, what are the don'ts, what does this even mean and why? And at the time, by then it was like, I think it is already into 300 words or not 140 words and all that. So he kindly spent that time with me and I started off and I had 3 followers. But I said, my first post, because I'm getting onto a new medium, is going to be something which is more meaningful, because that's why I want to be on Twitter. So a friend was running this organization called Feed My Chennai. And it was for feeding the migrant workers who couldn't go back. So they were doing a kitchen. And Sonia, if you're still on the call, that was Samba he was involved with it. So I tweeted about Feed My Chennai based on his message, what he had done, and put all the right hashtags, I think. And then there was this ping on Twitter. And I said, what does this ping even mean? And I found out that you could send one-on-one messages on Twitter. I said, okay, wow. So there was this message from this lady called Chumki Bharadwaj, who works for India Today. And she said, I saw this post and we want to feature this organization. Is it yours? Can I talk to you? I said, no, it's not, but very happy to, link you to my friend who can talk about it. And India Today featured Feed My Chennai. And because they did that, and I'm sure, like Suresh was saying, that they got a lot of calls and they got that little bit more visibility. Now, so when you get on to any medium, it doesn't matter whether you have 100,000 followers or what, your intent on why you're getting in, and things will work out for themselves. Don't be bothered about the clicks, likes, and all that. And I remember another friend, Sharda, she used this terminology, and I'm sure it's a marketing term. She called it vanity metrics. We are not there just for the clicks and likes and comments and how many and all that. It's important. It's important to engage with your audience. If somebody has commented on your post, have the courtesy of replying on it for sure. But that's not what you're for. And Seth Godin talks about it also really beautifully in his blog. When you're keeping up with the Joneses, which is your neighbors, what's my neighbor doing? What can I do better? And all that. It is important to choose who you're tagging yourself against. Pick up something that's motivating and use that. It doesn't matter. You don't have to compete with everybody. It's not a competition. Just look at who are you comparing against. Is there something that's motivating about that person? Something that you can follow? Take it, follow it if you can. Otherwise, give yourself peace of mind. We are in this world, not just content rich, information overload, too much going on. It's useful for the business, but there are organic ways of doing it. And it will, I'm not saying one of those, just be quiet and calm and it'll happen. You do what you can do and do it in a way that you can manage it. Have you seen the skip ad buttons on YouTube?
Yeah.
So don't just stay online, get offline and invest in relationships. Otherwise, people will skip ad you. There's no reason for them to connect to you unless you can really build that relationship. And we were talking, Jayeshi and I were talking about tennis just before this. So I want to share a video. And I'm just going to quickly stop and just check that I have the audio enabled. Yeah, I do. This is Daniel Medvedev, Australian Open tennis tournament we just got over. In the finals, the presentation ceremony against Djokovic, he gets on stage and he talks about an incident that happened to him. And so I'm just going to play the video. And please give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Yeah, never easy to speak when you just lost a final of a Grand Slam, but I'm going to try to do my best, better than on the court, hopefully. First of all, congrats to Novak and your team. I mean, 9 Grand Slams in Australia, 18 total is amazing, and probably it's not your last one, so I mean, I have no words to say. Just to tell you a small story, guys. First, I practiced with Novak when I was, I think, like 500 in the world or 600 in the world in Monaco, and so he was already #1, just won Wimbledon. And I thought, okay, he's not going to speak to me or something because the guy was a god for me. And I came there, and because I was shy, so I didn't speak. So he was asking me questions, talking to me like a friend. I was really surprised, and it never changed since I was 600 in the world or 4 in the world. You're a great sport, great person, so congrats to you.
So I just want to, ask you, what does that give you a sense of both the players? Again, feel free to put it on the chat or unmute and share.
Humility, I think, honesty, and
yeah,
I think I'd also give credit to him for telling the story in this platform, right? Of course,
absolutely.
Because it's not a story he should have even, he could, I mean, he needn't have said it. Nobody would know, right? So
absolutely. No, so true. I mean, Nishala, that was my first thought when I heard it, saying that it was one of those, what we say, hard stakes conversation, high stakes conversation, difficult time to say anything. He was hoping to win, good sportsmanship, absolutely, Anupama. Mohana, courage to accept who you are. And in just those few sentences, he also gave a glimpse of who Djokovic is as a person. You got to know about Medvedev, and you also got to know about Djokovic. And to do that in a platform like this, in an event like this, to courageously come up and say, speaks of, like you rightly said, humility, honesty, using the thing. And it also shows that obviously Djokovic, knowingly or unknowingly, had built such a great relationship. People realize about you only, when they know you care about them, right? And he has remembered it over all these years, and he's shared it at such a huge platform. And while I give him all credit for sharing it, he would have done some bit of practice. And that is something I want all of us also to keep in mind. As spontaneous as sharing stories sound, it requires practice. And there were some really horrible interviews along the way in Australia Open. Tsitsipas, one really terrible interview and all that. When you're really caught off guard, they're not public speakers, they are tennis players. Nadal's my favorite tennis player. And over the years, we've seen how his whole relationship with the media and how his conversation has changed. And it requires a lot of practice. So while it looks natural, it's a great story to tell. It is done with practice to make it look really fluent. Building these relationships, and this has stood for me. So I'm in the red arrow space. And what the building the relationship has done for me is, over the years, because now last year we couldn't travel anywhere, but we could be on Zoom and go everywhere. I was really able to connect to people across the world. There are still a few spots left, but I hope to get there sometime. And that's what it does when you really go beyond just being online and getting into a relationship space. I want to talk about Regina Boda in the context of how do you walk the talk and how do you bring your whole self and build connections that matter. So she is Pizza Hut's European zone managing director, and she's basically was very unsure of her potential. She didn't even think she was qualified to be a general manager. So how many times all of us have also stopped ourselves from putting our hand up thinking we are underqualified? It could be applying for a senior management post, or it could be sometimes even just raising an objection to any conversation that we've had. So when she was working as a marketing director in KFC Germany, her boss, had mentioned about an opening. His name was Graham Allen, and he had mentioned about an opening coming up. And she talked about to her coach about that opening, and her coach said, yes, you should aim for a general management position. You can really add value to business holistically. And she said, no, I can't. I'm a marketing person. I have nothing that I know about other departments. I'm not going to be putting my hand up. I don't possess technical expertise. I can't oversee other function. But based on her coach's prodding, she went and talked to her boss. And she told him, saying, on a one-on-one conversation, she said, I think I'll be open to looking at a management role. And she was bracing herself. She thought, okay, Graham is going to really laugh it out. He's going to laugh at the whole notion. he's going to tell me, you're a good marketer, but you don't have commercial experience. Why don't you go and work in commercial for a few years and then come back? But Graham totally endorsed her and said, just go for it. You don't have to be a functional expert in every subject. One, you need to know enough people who are, so that they can't just, bulldoze you into things. And you have to surround yourself with people who are subject matter experts and let them do their job. So that really opened her eyes to the fact that when she became senior enough, she said, I should be looking at people for their potential, not just even when they can't see it themselves. And this is something, we talk about it. I'm not really convinced on the statistics about women and imposter syndrome, so I'm not going to argue that out. But if you had a doubt ever, or if you think somebody with you had a doubt, it is your responsibility as somebody leading that team to point out their potential and helping them grow. Show them the way, lead the way, and take them along. And because, in a way, what it's useful is, because you're not the subject matter expert, you can ask the unreasonable questions. You can tell them, oh, really? Why does it work? Is this as far as it can go? Can it go even further? What can you do? So you can really push the boundaries on that. And so this is again something, if you want, what is your Rebecca moment where you help others for potential? And, this is where you take it to the next level of being that motivator, being that leader that you can be for anybody around you. We all know about Roosevelt's this comment. People, don't really care how much you know till they know that you care, that you're there for them. And building a brand, a lot of the time, seems like we are talking about ourselves. But it's not about showing who we are. It's about finding out who others are. And nothing will build your brand better than showing genuine interest in others, their well-being, their opinions, their dreams. And you can do this in an absolutely very, very simple way. 2 steps. Ask people question about themselves and listen. So just leave it there. And just showing the genuine interest about, okay, how are you building your brand? What's happening with you? Oh, is this something that's relevant for me? What can I do it? Just ask and be inspired. And again, one of the groups that we are all part of, there is so much information through the women founders, through the group. I will admit I'm not very active on the group, but I lurk. And as and when I can, with the time zone difference, sometimes when I wake up in the morning, there's like 50, 100 messages there. But with my first coffee in the morning, I'm reading those messages and I'm taking in. Some of it is relevant to my line of work, some of it is not, but it's amazing how everybody comes in and contributes. And I want to link it to I do work on LinkedIn presence and social media as well, but not on the analytics side. One of the things is just bring yourself as you are and don't think about what am I saying? Think about how am I contributing? If you attend an event and, in Hong Kong, when it was possible to attend events, there were a lot of events. So you can just go to the event, you can build your network and you can go away. But the event organizer is also somebody like you who's putting an event together. They could do with that publicity. So drop a few lines about the event, reshare their post. You don't even need to add a line. It's like just retweeting without even a quote or whatever. And that's useful for them. You're highlighting presence and work that they are doing. And in a very non-intrusive way for yourself, if you are not very keen to be heavy on social media. So it's not a, social media, be on social media thing, but be on it meaningfully again. The last couple of points, we have time for it. Sharmila, are we okay? Okay. On business storytelling.
Go ahead. I think it's very engaging. I would.
Just a few more minutes. I'm conscious of everybody's time on Saturday. Okay, Nishchala's LinkedIn Voice 2020. That's good to know. And I hope to learn something from you, Nichila. I'll definitely connect with you after this. So on the storytelling piece, really share anecdotes, a glimpse of yourself, a sneak peek into who you are. And especially in the workplace, some of these helps build very authentic connections. So our favorite, Indra Nui, she was asked by this Fortune reporter in 2011 about, they just, at that time, Pepsi had just come up with this thing about performance with purpose. So the reporter really asked her a cheeky question saying, what, did you just wake up one day and come up with this word, performance with purpose? What does that even mean? And I'm going to share that video, really short. So again, let me know if you can hear it clearly because I've been switching mediums.
Talk with me about where performance with a purpose came from. Did you just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to reinvent the mandate of Pepsi, or is this something you've been thinking about for a long time?
Let me talk a bit about performance with purpose and why it came about. I grew up in the south of India, in a city called Madras, about 10 million people then, now it's maybe 15 or more. And I grew up in a city where there was no water. Every morning, my mom would get up at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, and she'd wait for the taps to start releasing water because the corporation would release water from the central reservoir, and water would trickle in. And my mom would find every pot and pan to fill water in, and she'd give the kids and my dad 3 containers of water, which was your quota for the day. And you learn how to wash yourself, to clean yourself, your uniform had to be washed in it, everything with those 3 containers of water. At the same time, in the same town, the same city we lived in, I watched large corporations build plants, use a lot of water, okay? Because we liked them, they created jobs. Think about this. You can't have a large corporation using excess water in a town where there's no water to eat or drink or live. I think there's a fundamental problem with this. Okay, that's, observation 1. Observation 2, I came to the Yale School of Management in 1978. And the Yale School of Management stressed one thing in their business education then and does now. When you're running a company or part of a company, you have to focus on the shareholder. There's no question about it. But there's more to a company than just the shareholder. There's a multiplicity of stakeholders, and you've got to worry about all of them, because when you worry just about today and just the shareholder, you don't want to add cost to society that somebody else has to clean up. So that was data point number 2.
So what sense do you get about, we all know Indra Nui, she's larger than life now. But sitting in a conference when a cheeky reporter asks you, did you just pick it out of the hat? What do you think of her bringing something which is her, background from where she was, how she grew up? So it's really about bringing your whole self to whatever you do. Taking all your avatars, as we say, with you and presenting yourself as a person, and no holds barred. This is who you are. It doesn't matter where you came from, but of course, using a great platform like this to highlight it and make it okay for others to do it as well. So just the quick tips on, the points that we covered for you to, so do your own thing. You can't be another person. You are yourself. So do your own thing. Invest in relationships. Reframe your thinking about what is potential for yourself and for others. Ask and listen. Storytelling at work, very useful for sure. And bringing your whole self to whatever you do and whatever you are. And as they say, there are I know a lot of entrepreneurs and women founders. Don't ask for what the world needs. Just go and do it. Because what the world needs is people like you who can really make things come alive, follow your dreams and passions. So as they say, bring a new dimension to whatever you do. And I know Ficci Flow is a great example of that itself. So as a person, your smile is your logo. Your personality is your business card, and how you leave others feeling with the interaction that they've had with you is your trademark.
Wow.
And that's going to define
Very well said.
who you are. And with that, thank you so much. I know I've gone a bit over time, but thank you for your patience. Thank you for engaging. And I hope all of you will connect with me. Otherwise, the almost quiet Twitter account, but I'm there on Twitter, but I'm more active on LinkedIn. So whichever space will work for you. And thank you so much. Thanks, Sharmila, especially, and Jayashree, and everybody else at Ficci Flow. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andri. I think it was a great session and we really enjoyed it. There was so much of tips from us, so much of, things that the way we are thinking, we are, giving us ideas, what we can do. So I will invite Dolly to just give a vote of thanks. Dolly?
What? Hello?
Yes, Dolly.
I didn't get you. What do you want me to do?
Dolly, can you give a vote of thanks?
Oh, okay. Okay. I really, I got such a lot of, inspirational inputs, points, some of the things which had never occurred to me, even though I've spent so many years in my corporate sector and I have the passion, but now I know how to brand myself. So it was a very good thing. All the riddles and the quizzes and the things that you gave allowed us to self-explore and self-assess ourselves. And I've really got a lot of tips, even though now I'm almost like, post-retirement, but I still like to learn from people like you. So it was an excellent session and you made it so interactive. More than anything, you made it interactive. So we all got, inspired and we all got to express our views and reassess ourselves.
Great.
Thank you so much, and we'll definitely connect with you. I'm not much of a person on social media, but now I know the value. Not much on Twitter, mostly on LinkedIn. But we have to expand. Networking is what you have emphasized, and presenting yourself in the most natural way.
Thank you. Thank you, Dolly, so much.
Yeah, no.
Thank you,
the
the
audience.
audience.
Thank you, Sharmila. And thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
And I know we didn't get time for questions or anything, but it's more discussions. It's not question. Nobody's the expert here. Very happy to connect with you offline and have a chat.
Yeah, that's very good.